What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the What If Show every Sunday morning. So we're going to be doing this every Sunday morning. It's going to be the What If Show where we go over one What If book. So hope everybody enjoys it. Stay tuned to see which one we're going to hit on today. All right, guys. So as you heard, I was saying we. So I got somebody with me today. It's not Nick, however, today. And for the length of this show and however long we go on it, I'm gonna have my counterpart is gonna be Mr. Captain Comics. What's going on, sir? How you doing this morning?
I'm awake. Lost an hour.
I hear you. I hear you. It's rough on that springing forward, springing ahead an hour. I enjoy the fall back a lot better.
I do too. Fall back asleep.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm checking the chat here. We got Discovery Bay JB says he was first in here. What's up, man? Got Comics 89. Made it just in time. Count Von Strange, what's good? What's up? So last week we got on and we talked about what we were going to do with this show. Kind of talked about what we liked about the What If books. We showed some of the covers that we really liked and talked about some of the issues we liked, and let everybody know that this week was going to be our first show where we're actually going to go and dive into one of the issues. And so the first issue that we decided we were going to dive into, of course, had to be issue number 1. And we both got our copies handy. We got the What If Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four. If you haven't read this, it's super cool. The way it dips in and out of canon throughout the book, and when you get to the end, which we'll talk about, you really get a big shock for sure. Something you weren't expecting, kind of came out of left field, and you think about how that would have changed the whole entire landscape of these particular heroes in comics.
For sure. I mean, different scenarios with Spider-Man to Fantastic Four, like you said, there's a big twist at the end. If you read Fantastic Four, you would know this happened. If you read Spider-Man, this would happen. And that's what I like about What Ifs, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yep, absolutely. So we know in this issue, it says on the cover there, we're talking about a Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four. So it starts out and we're in basically Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 1, where Spider-Man has decided that he's got to find a way to use his powers to make some extra cash. So just like in canon, we see that he decides he is going to seek out the help of the Fantastic Four. That's got to be a great way for me to make some money. I'll just join up with those guys. So we see Spider-Man just like in issue number 1 of the first series. He's going across town, sees the open window, jumps in it, and boop, he's trapped. He thinks he's outsmarted them, and he's trapped. And just like in The Amazing Spider-Man, on the cover of issue number 1, you get that panel where he's in there, and you can see he's maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am, because now I've been caught
in a glass bubble.
Yep.
Can't figure out how to get out of it.
And the Fantastic Four, they're kind of shocked about what's going on. An intruder just jumping through the window. And so of course Ben goes on high alert. He's ready to just crush him. And so Spider-Man explains the whole thing of why he's there, and that he's there because he needs to get on the Fantastic Four payroll, which is just it's funny to think that that Spider-Man would think like, yeah, these who's paying them though? Like that was my question.
Right. They get all the science money.
Right. It's like, okay, if we're paying out, we have a payroll and, we're all getting salary, where's the money coming from? Because,
Right.
you
Wonder
know,
if all superheroes thought that too. Hey, let's go to the Fantastic Four. They make less money.
right. The superhero, the union, there's a superhero union or something, apparently.
Right.
So they start explaining to him that there's no salary, we don't get any pay, so sorry, bud, there's really nothing we can do for you. And he gets kind of irritated. So just like in Amazing Spider-Man 1, back out the window, and Sue, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah.
Oh, so we see Sue just in both stories. She's wait, come back, and we know in the Amazing Spider-Man he doesn't come back. And what if number one, Spider-Man comes back? So when he comes back, and then they have a conversation, and from that point on, they kind of talk through on, well, maybe we can bring this guy on. Maybe he's got something to add to the team. So what did you think about all that?
I thought that was a pretty good part. Like I said, it's it takes Fantastic Four and it takes Spider-Man because they did meet before, and it just turned the whole thing around and said, well, what if he did stay, or was proposed some money, or had him join the team. And that's where that all comes into what if number 5,
Yeah, absolutely. Which we're going to be picking up in probably 4 weeks. So,
Yeah.
So we see, now they're going to have a conversation. They're going to go over, the pros and cons to bringing Spider-Man in, and then that kind of jumps back into Amazing Spider-Man, where we see a press conference, and the Fantastic Four are letting everyone know that hold on a second, I gotta throw this up. JB, the costume is fantastic. Absolutely, his whole setup today is awesome, isn't it? So we see that they're gonna have a press conference, and they're telling everybody, the Fantastic Four is no more. We are now the Fantastic Five, and everybody rips the four off their chest, and we see there's five, and they introduce the newest member is Spider-Man. So of course JJ has to go up there and just go off the rails. And once that happens, and he sees that, okay, the Fantastic Four have endorsed him, and changes his tune right there on the spot, and now he is formally endorsing Spider-Man, and he's okay with us, and maybe we were wrong about everything. So we kind of see, that's another difference here in this book is, now we see JJ is all, okay, yeah, Spider-Man's great. So
yeah, he's not a menace to society anymore.
Right. And which, it completely is out of character for JJ.
Right.
So from there, we start getting into, I think the first thing that I saw that I thought was really cool was when we started getting into the ASM number 2 with the Vulture, and we know what a menace the Vulture was for Spider-Man, and the fact that he had issues with trying to figure out how to beat this guy.
Right.
The fact that he's got these magnetic wings, and what to do with him. Now he's with the Fantastic Four, so they are as a unit now going to go after him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like any hero. If they have, somebody else that's helping them, it's always easier. It's the same thing with this, that they just went after him and took him down pretty easy. Super Apes, I think, were in there. A couple other heroes that they both kind of fought. It was much easier that way for them, I feel. A lot of superheroes, that's the way. If they wouldn't have a sidekick or wouldn't have this, they probably wouldn't be able to defeat this bad guy, you know, and that's kind of the same scenario with this, you know. It was so much easier with the Fantastic Four with them, you know. And then that was the part too, is that when they became the Fantastic Five, Sue just stayed at the base and the guys went out and did all the missions, you know. I thought that was kind of, I wouldn't say racist or anything like that, but just, you know, 50s style, you know, the wife stays home and the guys go out and fight, you know, and
Right.
and that's kind of from that era anyways, you know, is that's what they figured, you know, oh, they won't have her fight and have her take care of the base and we'll go out fight. And
Yeah, and we see that come to play later on too in a big way. Them leaving her at home, um, and how that part of this, you know, what if universe really changes the landscape for the Fantastic Four completely. Um, but yeah, so we see, you know, Spider-Man doesn't really even have to do much with the situation with the Vulture because uh, the Human Torch can fly, so he just, you know, basically does that. He torches the wings. Spider-Man does not have to get the anti-magnetic inverter, which he does end up having to use in Amazing Spider-Man #2 to defeat the Vulture. So it just really shows, you know, as this team uh, continues to move forward, we see that they're going through some of these villains with ease that otherwise, whether it be one or the other, it was more of a problem. Excuse me. So we fast forward a little bit to, like you said, where we get to the point where they're going into, I believe they're going into space,
yeah,
and they decide to just, you know, hey, Sue, why don't you just hang here? Let us go handle this. We got it. So she does. And while they're in space and doing their thing and they're fighting these guys, Sue gets a message, you know, from someone very, very important to her. So, excuse me. So then we find out that she's actually being lured by none other than Submariner. So she comes to him, and in that she ends up uh, struggling with her feelings between Mr. Fantastic and Submariner, and you know she's going through the scenario in her head of, you know, staying with Reed or you know, going with Submariner, and the fact that, you know, they really don't need me anymore, and I you know, they seem to be fine without me. So she really has that struggle. What do you think about that?
I mean, that was a good part of it too, because, you know, whatever, and she actually realizes that she's in love with, you know, Submariner. So, I mean, that part was a little bit crazy right there, knowing that, you know, that she had conflict between Mr. Richards and everything. But on the other hand, it was like, well, they don't need me. I'm just the housewife. I'm cleaning the base, you know, I'm not on missions. So, I mean, that part was kind of different.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, she kind of had the mindset of, you know, I'm not really being very helpful to the Fantastic Four at this point. Maybe, you know, I do have feelings for Submariner, so maybe I can do more good if I'm with him down there. And you know, even after breaking the Puppet Master's spell, or you know, that part of the situation at that point had nothing to do with it, because she decided on her own that, you know what, I love this guy and I love Reed, but Reed kind of bailed, so I'm gonna go hang with the fish guy with the great body down here in the ocean. And yeah, you know, you got uh, the guy that's made of rubber or the guy that's made of rock. You know, you got this carved in stone Submariner guy that kind of looks like Mr. Spock, but you know, she
Runs
was
around in his underwear.
yeah, you know, she was digging him. So so that struggle becomes more of a struggle in this book, um, which is another difference for the actual what if story. where she actually capitalizes on her impulse to go and be with Submariner. And of course, it doesn't take long, and the Fantastic Four make their way down, and Submariner is just wearing these boys out. You know, we see, you know, the Thing can't squeeze a hold of him because he's slippery, can't hold on to him. You know, Spider-Man can't do nothing with him. So they're throwing everything they got at this guy, and he's just, you know, basically just wearing them out with ease. And they find out that he does have Sue encapsulated in this, basically an air bubble with they call it a giant octopus. It almost looks like a squid. And she basically lets them know, hey, I've made my choice. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna stay here with him. And then they pop the bubble, and yep. Love it. Yeah, ouch, completely.
All right.
And you know, Reed is just like, come on, like really? And but at the same time, he's understanding at the same time too. So he just lets her be. And Submariner, he changes her, and she is able to now breathe underwater, just like him. And you know, Sue and Submariner go on to live happily ever after. And the Fantastic Five have now become the Fantastic Four again, except instead of Sue Richards, we have Spider-Man in the mix. So we got four dudes. And so the Fantastic Four at this point, like we said earlier, you know, you've got this big twist and that really changes the landscape of not only the Fantastic Four, but the Amazing Spider-Man series forever.
Right. And that process that she went through apparently was permanent. It's not like she could reverse it anyway or anything either. That was
Right.
kind of the weird thing on that, you know, that I thought it was permanent. With everything with comic books, you know, you can die and come back, but you can't change from breathing air to water, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of thought that too. Like, you know, the fact that you know, it's irreversible. Like, you say that, but it's a
Right.
comic book.
All right, exactly, you know.
Yeah, and he pretty much, you know, he destroys everything, you know, from that point on that would link her to being able to have anything to do with having communication with the Fantastic Four or the on land world. So you
World.
know, he pretty much, you know, once he gets her, he cuts her off completely from anything that has to do with the world outside of the water, which was smart on his part for sure. Because you know, if he was able to lure her so easily his way, then who's to say she wouldn't be lured back the other way at some point?
Right. Well, if you had a process where you could never breathe air again, so you know, swimming with the fishies for the rest of your life now.
Yeah, yeah. Sue's kind of a floozy. Just
Right. Pretty much. But she went from one scenario, you know, hey, I'm staying here at the base, cleaning the base, doing this. Now I'm a queen down here in the depths of doing nothing, and I have servants working for me. So, you know,
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess you can't really blame her. You know, going from that to like you said, being the queen of the underwater world, and uh, being able to be tied to Prince Namor forever, the
right,
Submariner. Um, it kind of makes me think too, because you know, we know that Submariner kind of has that villainous edge to him. So
right.
it kind of makes me wonder, like, does Sue eventually kind of, you know, rub off on him enough to where we don't see that as much, or would it be the opposite where we see more Sue jumping into that role and having that kind of villainous edge to her at some point?
Right. Well, with a lot of her powers too, you know, you can change the scenarios with him even and what he's gone through the comic books. you know, that's what the whole great thing about What If is. You can continue on what if, you know, and that's what the great thing is about these stories is they make you think, even though, you know, you might know the story, but, you know, it's just like anything. It has a tail with it, you know. I, you can do this or you can do that, you know. Some books I've read now, you know, they end on a flat point and they don't keep you thinking, you know, and that's what I
Right.
like. What ifs is that they do keep you thinking, and you know, same thing that Spider-Man at the end here was kind of regretting even being part of the team, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's even by itself, you know. Oh well, Spider-Man can do it by himself, but what if he was part of the Fantastic Four?
Right. And we see, you know, Spider-Man does kind of feel bad, and you know, I've got it pulled up here where uh, the Fantastic Four don't understand at all what's going on, and you know, Reed says, but now maybe she can be the Submariner's conscience, and thus the surface world's protectress more than ever before. And I'll pretend that that means more to me than uh, than Lassen's the only woman I ever loved. Than losing the only woman I ever loved. Sorry, it's hard to read that small print. So you know, that kind of goes into what I was saying too. So maybe she can be, you know, a positive conscience to the Submariner, and then we see, like you said, where Spider-Man's kind of like, you know, dang, maybe if I hadn't have showed up on you guys' window stoop there and messed everything up, you know, Reed wouldn't have lost the love of his life. But you know, at this point, it's already done. So hey, Fantastic Four is back together again, and now we have to change our suits again. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one for sure. I liked being able to, and that's another cool thing is these books will actually give you um, they'll tell you where to go look in canon, where to go look for the story that actually made it to print. You know, our world's story is what the Watcher calls it. You know, our universe. It'll give you some direction on where to go to look up for the history on where they pulled this book from. So that was really cool. And this one we got to see some of Amazing Spider-Man #1 and #2. We got to see a little bit from Amazing Fantasy 15 and Fantastic Four 13 and 14. We got to see some out of those as well. So I think Roy Thomas did a great job writing this, and the artist team being Jim Craig, Pablo Marcos, and Janice Chang. They all did pretty good too. I think the artwork looked really good. Um, and like I said, Roy Thomas was a great writer, and we know that books were written differently back in, you know, this was written in '77, but they did keep it true to how, you know, the originals were written with the books
Right.
that they pulled the content from. It was still written kind of like those where you don't have a narrator as much as the actual characters are narrating everything that they do as the story goes. So that was cool to see too.
Yeah, your watcher pretty much just gives you, well, this is an alternative route, reality to this, to that. And he just kind of sits back and watches what this happens and that happens if this would happen.
Right.
And that's what I like about the watcher too, is that he's not directly involved with anything. He's just more telling the story that, you know, this story, we know this story, in another reality this story happened or this happened. So I mean, that's where it all comes down to is, you know, what reality the watcher wants to give us.
Yep. And we get the basically the origin of the Watcher in this issue, and he explains what he's doing, and he explains, like you said, you know, there's multiple different realities and different stories that can be told, and these are basically him just picking which one he wants us to see. So. Um, I give this one, it's really good. I enjoyed it. I think for a first issue of a series like this, I don't think they could have picked any two series to put together, better because the Fantastic Four, they are the beginning, and then you have Spider-Man, which is, the basically the flagship. So to throw those guys together, it made so much sense, and being able to pull it together like they did, and then throw the big twist on the end and pull Submariner in there like they did, it was really cool, really cool. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, the chicks enjoy the seamen guys, They can't
Apparently,
resist us in our green Speedos. So,
awesome, awesome.
but
So
yeah, that's the big twist at the end is, that she gave up everything and went with Submariner, even though it was under a puppet master spell and he was seducing her at first, but then they broke free of the spell or whatever it was. That's the nice thing is that she still decided, hey, I still want to be with him, and that's like, oh, snap.
yeah, yeah, it's a definitely a kick in the gut if you're Reed Richards for sure, because I can imagine that was probably the most unexpected thing that could ever have happened to him, outside of waking up one day and being able to stretch his arms as far as he could think he wanted to, or looking at Ben, and now he's a rock. Outside of that, I think this is probably the most unpredictable thing that's ever happened to him.
All right.
Awesome. Well, I enjoyed going over this book with you, man. I enjoyed reading it. Hope you guys in the chat that are watching now, hope you guys enjoyed it. For those of you guys catch it on the replay, if you guys haven't read What If #1, definitely recommend it. It was a great story. We got some really cool things to think about out of this, and think about if this had happened, how the landscape of comic books for Marvel would have changed. And in our next issue, we're going to be talking about what if the Hulk had the brain of Bruce Banner, which we do know has made it into canon. So that one should have a lot of really cool talking points where we can talk about what if #2. Then we can talk about how it actually happens in Hulk 377, and we can look at how if the similarities or the differences, and which one we thought did it better. So I'm definitely looking forward to that too.
Yeah, me too. That one's a good one all the way around. I like that one about, I always thought about that way before they even started the movies or anything else, because I read that story, and they've done it justice on some books, and other books they haven't done it to justice, but on the other, I do enjoy the Hulk every once in a while. I do like a lot of Hulk books. And that's the thing about these what ifs is, you might like the Punisher, you might like the Daredevil, you might like Captain America. They touch base on every hero or every villain sometimes too,
Mm-hmm. And the pair ups and stuff that they put together. This is the only place you're going to get it.
Right. Some teams that they'll never be together, I want to say that was the first appearance of Fantastic Five, so there must be another issue or something where I don't know if Fantastic Five has somebody else besides Spider-Man, but I want to say that's the first appearance of Fantastic Five.
I know Magic Lasso said that issue #21 is pretty much a sequel to this issue #1. So when we get to that one, maybe we'll see something in that.
Else.
So, well, thanks for coming on and talking about this what if #1 with me, man. I really enjoyed it, and I'm super pumped for us to get on next week at the same time, and we're going to talk about what if #2.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy these books. We have a good time on them. Maybe we'll bring some other aspects to it, especially with the Hulk. A lot of people have different opinions about the Hulk and Bruce Banner, and
Yep.
so that one we can throw in a little bit things in there too. For me, when I get a little angry, I get a little green myself, but we all do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we had a question real quick before we roll. Comics and death metal. So Ryan, what if number 2 is what if the Hulk had the brain of Bruce Banner? So we're gonna jump into that one next week. It's gonna be around the same at the same time. So it's gonna be 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Me and the captain are gonna be making it happen. So once again, thank you to everybody who showed up today in the chat. Thank you to everybody who's watching on the replay. Make sure you guys go check out What If number 2. If you can't find these in actual floppies, you always have the Marvel Unlimited app, Comixology. There's plenty of places right now where you can go and get these and read these stories, so that when we go through them, we're talking about them, you guys know what we're talking about. Or maybe afterwards, hearing us talk about it, you guys get interested and you want to go see it. You don't want to pick those floppies up. They're available in many different ways, but I know I love picking up the actual copies, so that's been a fun hunt for me.
I do too. That's what I pick up is the comics a lot of the times too. I mean, a lot of them are cheap dollar books. If you want something just to read, and they're usually only $1, or even you can pick them up for 50 cents. But there are a couple of them that are pretty high priced, but for the most part, you can still read them or get it digitally downloaded. So
Absolutely, and they have trades too. So if you can find the trades, that's another way to do it. So, but that's it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys enjoyed us going over What If number 1 and seeing what happened if Spider-Man had joined the Fantastic Four. We will see you guys next Sunday at this same time, and we'll go over What If number 2. So thank you for everybody that tuned in, and as always, collect your way.